Hey everyone, this is Roman Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience podcast. Today I have with me Catherine Salamanca. Catherine is an American entertainment artist who is an actor, author, podcaster, vlogger, blogger, comedian, celebrity interviewer, and social media promoter. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you kind of diversify in all of those kind of creative, directions, and how did you kind of get started?
Yeah, so I am bipolar and I have anxiety and ADHD and PTSD and BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. So I have a lot of mental health issues and always had them. I was born this way. And I was doing a lot of drugs and drinking a lot back in the early, 20s and 30s, et cetera. And 3 years ago, I decided I'm going to try out recovery. And I've been in recovery for mental health and addiction for 3 years. And the reason why I did recovery is because I got arrested and I went to jail. And the judge said, either you do 10 years in prison or get some rehab. So what do you want to do? That's how I got here.
Yeah, that would be a easy choice for most people. And then some of obviously those creative things that I've mentioned. Is that kind of therapeutic for you as well? Is it the things you're interested in?
Yeah, absolutely. The entertainment artistry, the acting, comedian, and author, everything has come from the recovery, from being sober and sober minded, and things like that. Because when I was doing drugs and drinking, I didn't care about anything. So when I got sober, I decided, well, I need to do something with my time, right? Because I'm not passed out all the time. So I started honing my craft, which was I went to John Casablancas acting school, which is, it's the only thing I could afford. And I went to Station Theater Improv School for comedy. And so I've been, practicing and going to school and studying this craft for and I interned at a radio show. So, but it's only, I'd be in jail right now.
And with everything going on, I guess with COVID, some of those things are, live arts. How is that kind of have had you pivot into obviously the podcast? You can do it anywhere, and obviously we're in two different locations that you can kind of pivot to Zoom or another platform, Squadcast, or remote recording. In terms of the acting and comedy, how is that impacted, and how have you kind of pivoted?
Well, it's been really difficult with, luckily, last year I finished up a movie. The title is Bad Bitch, and it's a short indie film, and it's premiering in October coming up. And luckily we wrapped it up and before COVID. So it was actually supposed to be released this year in March, but then COVID happened, so it didn't get released. So I was able to act before COVID hit. Now that it's been after, obviously it's been impossible, because how am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to act through Zoom? I mean, I'm doing it right now. Like, I'm acting like I'm a normal person, which I'm not. I'm totally crazy. But and then the comedian part, some people do comedy Zoom, but it's really just not the same. So it's really difficult, right? That I can't act, I can't do comedy, stand up in the clubs and on the stage. So, but here's the thing, because I haven't been able to do that, I have been able to hone into my online craft, which is being a social media promoter for business professionals, for podcasters, and for authors, and for whoever is interested in being promoted heavily in the social media world. So that happened because of being indoors.
Yeah, I think there's been a big pivot with that, and a lot of organizations, companies, Fortune 500 companies that are now reevaluating what work is and where you can work. So companies
Mm-hmm.
like Twitter, Facebook, I think have extended work from home fully to like 2021, 2022, and then a hybrid model. Because I think before that, a lot of companies thought, if we let people work from home, they're not going to get the work done, they're not as productive. And obviously, when something like this comes about that you don't expect globally, you see how people can pivot and react to that and really, elevate who they are, and oftentimes even be more productive at home as well.
Absolutely. And also, a lot of people have families and children. And so before COVID, it was like always work, 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 being out of the house. The kids, children, were not being properly taken care of some of them, around the world. And they were being actually neglected and things like that. So because of COVID, we've all had to kind of stay indoors and be with each other and spend time with each other, get to know each other and things like that. So I actually think I try to look at the positive of every situation, no matter how negative, it has been. So, I think a lot about the families being reunited and the children being with their parents, because the parents are now like working from home. And like you said, I've become more productive at home because I'm forced to stay at home.
Yeah, I agree. And my wife and I are foster parents, so we've had four boys under the age of 6 during this whole COVID thing. So me personally have had to adapt in terms of recording schedules and interviews, really revolving and being dictated by their nap time, not nap time and bedtime. So last week they finally, where I am, went back to daycare. I mean, daycares here where I am in New Jersey opened up like 3 weeks ago, but we wanted to give them a chance to see if they can streamline their process of keeping the kids safe, if they have, all the right precautions and stuff like that in place. So, but yeah, a lot of people are actually getting closer, and it's how you look at it. A lot of people have lost their jobs, were laid off, furloughed. So it's a great opportunity to possibly pivot and something that you may have been passionate about or something that you may have always wanted to do, but really never had the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like for example, my husband was furloughed at the beginning too, and so we were all very worried because he was the only breadwinner, to be honest, at that time. And so that really just brought me into like, well, what can I do? What can I do online? I've been trying to do online work for many years, but because I had the acting and the comedy and the outside of the home uh, things that I could do, I wasn't really concentrating on what I could. But in COVID, I've written 2 books that I've published, and that's in like, that's because of COVID. I wouldn't have done that had that not happened. Like if I wasn't like, you know, stuck indoors, it would not have happened. I would not have. I've taken courses from Harvard. Harvard I don't know if they still are, but definitely were offering free online tutorials, classes with modules, homework, it's the whole gamut. And I took a SEO class, I took a digital marketing class, I took a network advertising class. It was just like amazing. And I was just like, I can't do it. I get sad a lot because I mean, I miss being outdoors and seeing my friends and hanging out. And I certainly do get sad. And when this first happened, I thought it was the end of the world and I freaked out. And my panic attacks, my anxiety like went through the roof. And I was like, oh, and I had to call people. They had to calm me down. I mean, it was really serious. But now I'm just like, well, it is what it is. I mean, what can I do? I can't control it, so I'm not going to worry about it.
Yep, I think it's like obviously like making the best out of the situation. So sometimes there's things beyond your control, especially when you're trying to achieve something or what you're doing in life or the cards that you're dealt personally or professionally. And you just have to make the best of it, learn from it, make light of it and use that to power you and channel it into something positive.
Absolutely. Um, did we just talk something about, was it with you? Could have been with somebody else, and I'm sorry if it wasn't with you, but something about being a first generation American?
Yep, that's me.
That
Yeah,
was
I'm a first generation immigrant from Ukraine.
okay. And I'm first generation immigrant from Colombia, South America. So that's kind of cool. actually one of the first languages I learned was I was born here in the States, but I spent my childhood in Colombia. So I actually learned Spanish before I ever learned English. And when I came back from Colombia when I was like 8 years old, I didn't even speak a lick of English and I had to go to school. And, I had a hard time. And, but then I learned some English and then I took French and then I lived in Italy. So I learned a little Italian, but yeah, I remember that. And I rarely ever talk about my heritage. So this is interesting. And then my last name is a city or a town actually, and a university in Spain. So before my ancestors were in Colombia, they were from Spain, from what I understand. I think. I mean, it makes sense to me. That's my last name.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that, it adds a kind of an extra grit. I mean, it's a little different also that you were born here and then went back there and then learned Spanish and then went back again here and then learn English. But, when you're young enough, you can pick up those languages and have those kind of neurons not like connected yet in terms of developing your brain. So you're so young and you're learning those languages because I came here when I was 5. So if I came here maybe when I was 15, 16, 17, I would still be fluent currently in English, but I would retain that accent because my brain was already programmed in Ukrainian as my primary language in that sense.
Cool. What kind of other than podcasting, what kind of fun stuff do you like to do? And I'll tell you some of my hobbies that keep me busy, that keep me out of trouble indoors.
Well, I mean, the benefit of what I have a digital marketing agency. I started in digital marketing, funny enough, in the last big thing. So I had to pivot into digital marketing. I couldn't find a job in the 2008, 2009 recession. That's when I kind of graduated college and, there were no jobs. So I kind of got an opportunity and ran with it. Other than that, I kind of fell into podcasting. I always wanted to do it. I probably should have got into it maybe 5 years earlier, but kept telling myself that, there's too much involved, like technology wise. How do I host it? How do I distribute it? How do I promote it? And all of that, when you really get into it, is, pretty easy if you're passionate about it.
Absolutely. Okay, so I would tell you when I started podcasting, but first I'm going to tell you my hobbies like I said I was going to. So some of the things that keep me busy for the people that are out there that are like, what do I do? What do I do with my time? First of all, everything I get is from Amazon. So I got this henna tattoo kit and I do like henna tattoos on everybody, on myself, whatever. But I also do like, this is a girly stuff, but it's okay. Candle making. I like burn candles and then I put in another jar with a wick. It's actually pretty cool because there's a lot of colors involved. And then origami is another new one that I started doing. So these are all kind of things that keep me busy because, like I said, I have a lot of anxiety and even though I'm on pharmaceuticals, I'm on an antipsychotic and a mood stabilizer and all that, it still doesn't mean that I'm cured. I still have my moments where I'm like, out of this world. And then I'll tell you about, I started podcasting exactly a summer ago. So last year, I think it was in July, as a matter of fact. And I just did it, and I started on Anchor because, it was free, it just started. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. So I was just like, because I like the sound of my voice. That's it. That was it. So I did it by myself, and I would talk about gratitude, acceptance, anger, what it's like being bipolar by myself. And then I started taking my iPad and my iPhone over to my friends, and I was like, hey, let's talk about this, and then let's record it on this podcast and see what happens. And ever since then, now I have like 85 episodes, in a year, but I didn't start podcasting for reals till COVID. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's the perfect opportunity. I mean, I did it like non-consistently before I switched over to an interview format. I switched over to an interview format in March of 2019. I think I switched over to an interview format because the prior month, my grandfather passed away that I was close with. So he was kind of my main male role model, and there for me, like really for my whole life up until then. And I think during kind of the natural grieving process, it was one of those things that helped me cope actually. So I think I actually did it because I was naturally prior to that working from home and remotely in terms of what I do. So it was like you're left to yourself, to your thoughts. Obviously, oftentimes they go into a direction that's not necessarily positive, or you get down and you get depressed, especially a loss of a loved one. So when I switched over to that and started interviewing people, the conversations went into loss and different, illness and seeing people suffer and grieving for certain things and experiences similar to mine. And that helped me kind of cope and get through that, I think.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you say that because my grandmother, she is like 95, and she raised me. Remember I told you I was sent like to Colombia to spend some time there? She's the one that raised me until I was like 8. And so she's still alive, but there's that time when she ain't going to be alive. And I'm just like, man, how am I going to, take it? How am I going to take it? Like, how is that grief going to really hit me? Because like you said, she is like, the backbone of who I am today. If it weren't for her strength and her personality, I wouldn't be the cool chick I am today, So, and like you with your grandfather, right? Like you're the cool dude because he was a super cool dude as well. So, as far as grief is concerned, they do have some grief share groups that people get together at, like at a building. Sometimes it's church, but it doesn't have to be church. Like, I'm not a religious person. I'm very spiritual, super spiritual, like universe, nature, energy, stuff like that. But I'm not religious. So, but they have grief share for people that have lost loved ones, like children. People have lost children. They go to grief share, things like that. So if you ever feel, not you, but just for like people out there, if you ever feel sad, lonely, you miss somebody that you love dearly, please don't go the negative route. You don't have to go do drugs. You don't have to go shoot up heroin. You don't have to go get drunk. Just go to a group of grief share and cope with other people that share your same feelings and emotions and sadness. And it's okay to feel feelings, even if you're a dude.
Yeah, I mean, it depends also on the culture you're from. So some cultures are like super masculine, or the way that like that society was, let's say, brought up. So Ukraine was under the Soviet Union. So in Eastern Europe, men and women don't necessarily show emotion like as openly as in the US. So like I can be there, be somewhere, be super happy and still be kind of stoic, not really showing it that much, but inside I'm happy. Whereas it's just kind of like the culture, like a cultural norm.
Yeah. Do you think, okay, yeah. And that makes it interesting, topic, because you're right. A lot of the Americans are a little bit more open with how they feel, which is great. But do you think that in your culture, y'all have been changing things, or is it pretty much just the same from like generations past?
It's I mean, the people I guess here, so people that immigrated here from my country, I think the next generation, like me, yes. I don't think I hear my grandparents, my aunt, my mom really ever share, or when I'm talking to them, they're like, I'm sad or I'm upset. It's just, super factual, like, how are you? What are you doing? How's the kids, that kind of stuff. It's never like, sharing emotions. And even growing up, it was really never like that up until when I got married that somebody is, from America. So I kind of had to work on expressing myself a little bit better also.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes for interesting conversation because, like I said, I've been in recovery for 3 years, which means I've been in a 12-step program learning about not just my emotions, but other people, and being more empathetic and compassionate and things like that, right? Now, I am innately a very prideful, egotistical, narcissistic person that is just obsessed with myself. But the recovery program has taught me that I need to step outside of myself and think about other people and how they feel and how I may be upsetting them, not on purpose, but just by my expression or how I speak or how I act, or I could just be upsetting someone, and I need to not worry, but think about, is that really the way I want to express myself, even though it might upset somebody? Or so, because I used to be like, I don't care if it upsets you, I'm gonna be me. But then I realized that was getting me nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, you attract more honeys, with more bees with honey, right? It's true. So I actually consciously started being nicer, like consciously. I even have podcasts about it. I'm going to start being nice. It's titled. Not too long ago, it was probably about 3 months ago, because of COVID. As a matter of fact, I was like, I'm gonna try to be nicer, like consciously. Like, I'm gonna not cuss so much. I'm not gonna say so many bad words or any at all. I haven't really said it as much. I'm going to be nicer. I'm going to be more, I'm going to listen to people. I'll be more compassionate. And let me tell you, that karma has come back full. Like, I've gotten all of this, like, positive. So now I'm all like, let's be kind and no bullying. And I'm totally anti cyberbullying and bullying in general. But, I'm like really pushing the nice and kindness agenda, because it works. Like, it works for me. So what were we talking about? I feel like I got off track.
I mean, sometimes it's good to get off track, though. I mean, I've had interviews where I've been on a business show, and since I'm a foster parent, 40 minutes in an hour interview, it was about my experiences as a foster parent, but the conversation kind of needed to go there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Here's the thing, I love using my voice, my platform, to help and encourage other people. There's a lot of people out there suffering. They're just like, they got so much anxiety or so much sadness, so much depression, so much whatever. They might be going through grief, and I just want them to know that, first of all, they're not alone. We're all suffering. Every single one of us is suffering. I don't care what they say. Ain't nobody perfect. Ain't nobody super happy all the time, And so that we can be more, if we could be more open, honest, and transparent and authentic about those things, I think would really bring a lot of goodness into the world. Because I came from a generation culture, my grandma's culture, of don't say anything, be quiet, keep it a secret. It's just between us, And it was even silly things like I would go, like her and I would go to my aunt's house, and my grandma would grab something from the fridge and give it to me, and she'd say, "But don't tell your aunt that I gave this to you." Like, that's like the silliest thing in the whole world. Like, So anyway, I'm like anti that. I'm like, let's tell the whole world everything we can possibly think of. Let's be open and honest with each other. Let's use our voice in our podcasting community and whatever media community that we're in, and let's really make a change or an imprint or just something.
Yeah, I agree. If you have a platform, you might as well use it. So.
And it was brought up to me yesterday of like, where did you get the courage to talk about your mental health and your recovery, was the question. And the answer is, look, if I don't talk about it, I'm gonna go crazy inside my head and do something really bad. Like, I have to talk about it. And then I consciously made the decision about a year ago that I was gonna go public. Just in general, I'm gonna go Facebook Live, I'm gonna go Instagram Live, I'm gonna go YouTube, and then even Snapchat, just everything that I can possibly be able to do, with whatever little, And so a year ago, I started my campaign of going public with the acting and the comedy and this and that and this and that. And now it's like, it's turned into this like, wonderful thing that I have a platform. Yes. Are there trolls? Are there naysayers? Are there critics? Sure. I just don't pay attention. I don't, that's another thing. That's another thing that I wanted to mention is like, don't worry about your haters. I say this all the time. Don't worry about them. They're probably just, low. They may be a little bit jealous. And so, just I love my haters. I'm like, hey girl, what's up?
Yeah, I agree. So, what motivates you to succeed?
Yeah. That's a really good question. That's just what motivates you to succeed. Well, what else is there? I mean, I've already been to jail. I've already been homeless. I've already, been like the low of the low. I mean, I have nothing but up from here to go. It's like what motivates me is my spirituality. My husband of 13 years. Um, Growing my platform is important to me because I want to be able to reach more and more people, because I think that my message is positive. The mental health, the addiction, and the recovery is very, very much needed. And I mean, I was diagnosed in 2007, so it's not like I just hopped on the train recently, no. But what motivates me is, my own mother, when I was like from 10 to 18 years old, my own mother would tell me, at the time she was very lost and upset herself. So she would tell me things like, you will never, she would say, you're fat, you're ugly, you're stupid, and you'll never amount to anything, type of thing. So basically that's where the PTSD comes from. I've been emotionally, psychologically, mentally, verbally abused, by the very person that's supposed to take care of you and protect you, you know what I'm saying? So that I could come from that, and be happy, successful, free, joyous, really, I think is what's needed to be heard in the world today. So that motivates me to succeed. Just not so much being like, look, I did something with my life, because look, she'll never be proud of me no matter what I do. Okay, no matter what, because she's like a very religious lady, and I'm just like, look, I got tattoos, and I'm pierced, and I cuss. So, but my motivation comes from being told you're never gonna make it, and actually being like, you know what, that's your perception, but it ain't mine.
Yeah, I agree. And it's, kind of doing it for yourself. Like, even though that she's driven you in a way to kind of overcome things and strive for success, she's not the driver of that. You are, you're doing that. And I oftentimes say on the podcast and then other interviews I do, it's always a you versus you battle. The biggest person you have to overcome is yourself.
Yeah, and that reminds me of confidence and acceptance of oneself and loving oneself is really important. Okay, look, confidence and loving myself and accepting myself does not come from you or her or him or that. It comes from me, from what I believe about myself from within out. That's where it all comes from. Like, because I could tell you that 100,000 million men can say, "Oh, Catherine, you're the hottest woman in the world," and I'm like, "What?" I would never believe it. Like, I would never believe it, because it doesn't even matter. Because people's opinion is not what matters. My opinion about myself is what truly matters, because I'm the one that has to deal with me all day long. So my point is, what you believe about yourself is what is most important, not what other people think they think about you. You know, opinion versus fact. There's, so my opinion about myself, and I took a lot of affirmations, positive affirmations. I would look at myself in the mirror and be like, "You're a cool chick. You're smart. You're pretty. You're pretty. Whatever. You're pretty yourself. You don't have to be pretty to the world. You just be pretty to yourself, and that's good enough. And you're funny. You're nice. You're kind. Things like that. So I would tell myself that in the mirror. until what? I started to believe it. It took time. Took time. But yeah, that's kind of like a little bit of my story.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to overcome, and it's hard to kind of reprogram yourself if you've been told something all your life, or obviously dealing with mental health issues, when I think it's an important subject to advocate for, because I don't think there's enough services or enough understanding in terms of diagnosing and properly kind of understanding, people with mental health issues, and that a lot of people are now, even because of COVID caused, they're more anxious, they're depressed, they have nowhere to turn to. So figuring out how to help people and not just kind of, brush them aside.
And that makes an interesting, theme because, my husband is the caretaker of a mentally unhealthy person. Let's just put it that way, And so there's a lot of people out there that are taking care of people that are mentally ill or unable, or just let's just say mentally unhealthy. Okay, so for that, it's like, look, I don't know what it's like because I can't take care of a plant. All my plants die. Okay, but if you are a caretaker of a mentally unhealthy, unstable person, whatever, as long as you're not being abused, please don't be abused by people, by anybody. Nobody ever let anybody abuse you, for one. But, the first couple of things that I would say is you're going to have to, it's about patience, tolerance, understanding, compassion, empathy, things like that. But don't let people like me take advantage of you, okay? So I can be very manipulative. I can try to get my way, and if I could get, and then I don't want nobody to enable me to continue my craziness. No. So, if you're a caretaker, put the boundaries down. Put your foot down when it doesn't sound like a good idea. You can tell them that doesn't sound like a good idea. Are you sure? Why don't we sit on it for a little while longer? Things like that. That's what my husband says to me. I'll be like, look, oh my God, I cannot believe you do. And then he'll be like, okay, why don't you think about it for a couple of days and see how you feel? Because I'm very, impulsive, and it's yeah. So I love all the caretakers around the world, and they deserve a really big hand and a big hug.
Yeah, I agree. So what's one piece of advice you could leave with the audience, personal or professional?
Well, I feel like I've talked a lot about personal and professional. Whew, it's hard because I would just say be nice, be kind to yourself, be kind to other people. I already said this, but I'm gonna say it again. No bullying, no being mean, even if you are mad, no retaliation, no revenge, be honest, be authentic, be real, be you, and be okay with that. It's okay to feel feelings. Money is not what makes you happy. Fame is not what makes you happy. I'll say this and I'll shut up. What makes me happy is making other people happy. So being a service to other people, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's when I feel like I'm really doing something. Because if I'm just being selfish all day long, all the time, it's just me, my car, my things, my life, I'm just like, I'm the most miserable. But when I'm like, well, what can I do to help you? How can we fix this problem for you? How can we, that's when I feel useful, and like that's the purpose of my life and the reason why I even live. Like, that's why I was given life, to help others. That's it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's like doing things for the right reasons and not having ulterior motives. And for me personally, I think I'm I guess, heart-led entrepreneur, and really being about leaving a legacy. So helping others, like you said, there's people that see others around them and just want to kind of keep them down or threatened by, they're threatening my income or who I am as a person, how I branded myself, that kind of thing. But you're wasting just as much energy being negative versus positive, and there's plenty of stuff for everyone. So it's like building the tallest building and then just not letting everybody rise with you, or being that person that's kind of the bigger person and helping those around you and kind of helping each other and lift each other up.
Absolutely, 100%. And I'm glad that there's more people that share that thought as well. I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, great. So I really appreciate you stopping by today. Can you let the audience know how they can find you?
Sure. Okay. So I'm all over social media. So if you don't want to find me, you won't. But if you want to, I am basically known as Pink Cloud 9. That's on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn. My real name is Catherine Salamanca, but my character name is Pink Cloud 9, and I also own Pink Cloud 9 Productions, and my email is pinkcloud9productions@gmail.com. And I mean, really, it's hard to not find me. So I'm just wherever and however, and I'm all over Facebook, and mostly Facebook, because there's a lot of conversations in Facebook, so I love it.
Awesome. Thanks again for stopping